Is the combination of Jayden Petit and Amari Latimer the best duo they've brought in a single recruiting class in 20 years? I'm going to tell you why it is.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this. Really do appreciate you. Thank you for being every dayer. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Today's episode, we are talking about the best skill duos the Badgers have brought in recruiting classes. Where does Amari Latimer fit with previous recruiting wins? And what's the big picture with this? First, I wanted to do this because the point of this exercise is to take a look at how unique and how big of a deal it is for the Badgers to get a top flight, high pedigree running back in Amari Latimer, and then a top flight, high pedigree receiver in Jayden Petit in this same class. Just how rare it is, how big of a deal it is, and how far you have to go back to really see when the Badgers last did this. Now, I'm looking at these players as they came into the program. So looking at recruiting rankings, offers, physical traits, not necessarily what they became after they got here, because we obviously can't judge an Amari Latimer yet, or Jayden Petit, or even a Dylan Jones, or those type of guys. But where does this duo potentially rank among previous Badger classes? We're going to go down the list, starting at 2025. They didn't bring in a running back. So automatically, Amari Latimer and Jayden Petit are higher. 2024, the best running back, the highest ranked running back was Dylan Jones. Paired him with Barry Johnson. There's no shade to anybody else on this list, but Barry Johnson is not the recruiting pedigree of Jayden Petit. We keep moving. 2023, Tresh Kekahuna, the top receiver, paired with Nate White, who, by the way, man, I'm not going to do a show on it, but gosh, that was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking news to hear about Nate White passing away way too young. Every single person I've ever talked to has talked about how incredible of a young man he was, how nice he was. I mean, that's heartbreaking. Way too young. 2022, Cade Yakimelli and Tommy McIntosh. You guys remember Tommy McIntosh? Like the tall, rangy receiver that was going to be our next boundary red zone threat? Yeah, that didn't work out. But neither of those guys certainly at this pedigree. 20, you get a little interesting. It gets a little spicy. You brought in Braylon Allen and Marcus Allen. So Braylon Allen was a 4-star player, in-state kid, big offer list. I wouldn't put him at the pedigree of Latimer, though. I think he had some questions about, honestly, his feel at running back. He was a physical freak. I love Braylon Allen. And Marcus Allen, I wouldn't put at the pedigree of Jayden Petit. Not from an offer list standpoint, certainly. And he was a high 3-star, low 4-star. So I don't think that class matches up to this one either. 2020, Jalen Berger and Chimere Dike, both were like kind of borderline 4-star guys. But again, when you look at the offer lists, when you look at the recruiting battles, I don't think it matches up to Latimer Petit. That's getting closer, though. That's getting spicier. Berger was a nice pickup, and DK was an in-state kid with some really nice physical tools. I don't think either match up necessary to this duo this year, though. So let's keep moving. 2019, Julius Davis, Dean Ingram. That's not it. I like Julius Davis coming in, but that's not it. 2018, Nakia Watson, Aaron Cruikshank. That's not it. Although it is fun, right, to go back to this history Rolodex of guys. Julius Davis, Nakia Watson, Aaron Cruikshank, those were fun players, but again, not at this level. 2017 gets spicy. You guys let me know. 2017, Jonathan Taylor and Danny Davis. So Taylor, 4-star player, Danny Davis, 4-star player coming out of Ohio. Both were big recruiting gets. Again, I'm not trying to just be Johnny come lately. The latest thing is the greatest thing. Their recruiting pedigree wasn't up to Latimer and Petit from the offer list. Or, I mean, listen, Jonathan Taylor, I would put up there with Amari Latimer, but Petit's different. I think it's a higher pedigree than Danny Davis, and both had bigger offer lists. I think we keep moving down the line. 2016, Sam Brodner, AJ Taylor. That's not it. 2015, Bradrick Shaw, Andrew James. You guys remember Andrew James, the fast slot receiver from Florida who got up here for like one semester and then was like, no, this is too cold. I'm leaving. Yes, not it. 14, Taiwan Deal, Crenwick Sanders, man, he was a 4-star receiver coming out of Georgia. That was a Gary Anderson class. I loved his film. Like a lot of teams wanted him. That was a big get, but no, obviously that And Taiwan Deal at the running back is not at Amari Latimer's level coming in either. You go to 2013, Corey Clement, Rob Wheelwright. Again, I don't think at this level of Latimer Pettit. 2012, Vontae Jackson. Gosh, he could have been good without those knees. Or with, I should probably say he could have been good with knees because he was so explosive, man. Coming the year after Melvin Gordon, a lot of people thought he was just as good in high school as Melvin Gordon. But that 2012 class, when you pair him with Reggie Love, is not at Pettit's area. 2011, you have the MG3 year, so Melvin Gordon, but then you pair him with a Jordan Frederick at receiver as kind of that top-rated receiver in that class. That's not going to be better than this grouping. 2010, Marquise Mason, Jeff Lewis. That's not close. This one's interesting. 2009, Monte Ball, Craig Appleton. I think you have an argument there. Both were four-star guys. I mean, Ball didn't have the greatest offer list, but Appleton was a major win. Coming out of the Midwest, a lot of schools wanted him. Obviously, the off-field stuff caught up with him. Great physical tools, big boundary receiver, could run, could catch, was physical. Coming into the program, Amari Latimer and Jayden Petit or Monte Ball and Craig Appleton. I think I still probably go Petit Latimer, but that's an interesting discussion. 2008. Again, we're going, almost 20 years back to just kind of illustrate how big of a deal getting this duo in the same classes. 2008, it's Dex Jones and TJ Williams. That one's a rough one. Low key, I really like TJ Williams. Was back when I was starting to follow recruiting. He could fly. TJ Williams could absolutely move, but yeah, it wasn't it. 2007. This is where I'm going to stop because I think this is the one where I'd say, yeah, this is on par with getting Pettit and Latimer. 2007, you pick up John Clay, running back. Everybody wanted him. Ohio State wanted him. I know he was an in-state kid, but man, that was one of the best players in the class. The physical tools were insane, much like Latimer. Physical guy, fast, good feet. And then you pair him with the Nick Toon, who, similar to Pettit, big boundary receiver, 6'1", 6'2", could run, could catch, could move, could break tackles, was physical. This is what that's like. You bringing in a Latimer and Pettit is similar to bringing in a John Clay and a Nick Toon in the same class. And you saw what those players became. Now, you never know. You never know. But just to illustrate how big of a deal this is for the Wisconsin Badgers and the recruiting staff, they don't pair groups like this very often. They don't pair an elite boundary receiver that has this type of offer list and these type of physical tools with a running back that is of Amari Latimer's ability, his pedigree, his running style. That's why Badger fans should be so excited. These are massive wins for the Badgers, as good as you can get at those spots. And to pair them in the same class, when you start to look at what they've done at quarterback recently, like if they're able to hang on to a Ryan Hopkins, who's not modern day, if they're able to pair a duo like this with a Carter Smith, who will be a couple years in the program at that point, they're really putting interesting chess pieces in Jeff Grimes' back pocket, right? And you got to be excited. You have to be excited, and you have to be really stoked for what this recruiting department did this cycle with these two spots. Because just absolute home runs, bases clearing, absolute top of the board, grade A, platinum, put it on the wall, home run additions to this class. Now, everyone's going to say, well, are you going to hold on to them? Are they going to, who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows, right? But you can't hold on to them if you don't get them in the first place. You have to get the horses in the stable before you can hope to train them and hang on to them. And my hat is absolutely off to this recruiting staff and this coaching staff and the players that hosted these guys and the city of Madison for just showing out, because these are massive home run, big time additions, and maybe the best skill duo since 2007. Let me know in the chat if you disagree with any of those comparisons. If you would have the Jonathan Taylor, Danny Davis one higher, or some other one that I'm not thinking of, but that was my list, and I'm stoked for this group, man. We're going to come back, talk about, is Amari Latimer going to play year one, and where does he rank up specifically with previous running back gets? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our incredible friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel's been longtime partners of the show for a reason. They are fast. It's simple. It's easy to spice up your sports weekend. And with summer going on, there's baseball, which I absolutely love. There's golf. There's a ton of stuff you can get into over on FanDuel. And it's so easy. It's so simple to use. The user interface is clean. And you get quick payouts. That's the one thing I always talk about FanDuel. I've been on other betting sites in the past, which I no longer use now because I found FanDuel. But sometimes it's really hard to get your payouts. It's complicated. You have to talk to somebody on the phone who quite frankly, doesn't care about you getting your money. FanDuel, it's so fast and simple and easy. You get your money as soon as you want it, as soon as you win it, and the betting options are unlimited, right? Parlays, futures, teasers, same game bets. It's all over on FanDuel.com. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can get bet $5 and win $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's incredible. Open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You will not regret it. All right, let's jump back into this. Let's talk Amari Latimer. I wanted to kind of tear this out. We talked about duos. Where does Amari Latimer fit in terms of the last several years worth of running back commits? Right? Where does he individually fit up if we take the Jayden Petit out of it? For me, I tiered this up in a couple ways. I did a tier A, tier B, and tier C. And there are so many good players that the Badgers have recruited at running back. It's not even close. So when I say it's not even close, it's not even close to what you look at in other programs. So it's hard to tier them out because there's some studs in the tier B group and there's some really good players in the tier C group. But when I look at the tier A, top of the board, running back gets that they've gotten, guys that have elite physical measurables, guys that had elite offer lists, guys that have elite film. In other words, as I say when we do our recruiting roundups, do they check every box? These are the guys that I think coming into the program checked every box. And Amari Latimer's in that group. I think he's in that tier A, top of the pantry group. And to me, it's Jonathan Taylor. Looking back at the last several years, Jonathan Taylor, Dylan Jones, and Amari Latimer. I think those are your tier A guys. Kind of going back to that mid 2015 range. I think Latimer's right up there with them. Now, will he be Jonathan Taylor? No, because nobody's going to be Jonathan Taylor. And Dylan Jones, we have to see what he's going to be. But when he came in, I thought he paired the physical skill set, the offer list, and the film. Latimer does all of that. Everything that you want as a running back at Wisconsin, catching the ball, being physical, him playing defense is incredible, right? Because I love the aggressiveness and the willingness to hit and the willingness to do whatever it takes for his team to win. All of that matches up with just an elite physical skill set. And then the offer list. You're talking about everybody. I mean, Georgia, Wisconsin went into Georgia and beat out the Bulldogs for running back in their backyard. Ohio State won him. Notre Dame, like you can go on and on and on and on. He's tier A for me. I think he's absolutely tier A. Tier B for me, these are the guys that I think Amari Latimer slots a little higher when he came into the program. I think it's guys like Braylon Allen, Corey Clement, Darian Dupree, Jalen Berger. Those are kind of those tier B guys to me who are really, really good, but there's something that just makes you wonder a tiny bit about them. With Braylon Allen, it was kind of the instincts, the fit. How is he going to play without a ton of reps at running back? Would he be better as a linebacker and edge guy? I still have people ask me that. And that's after Braylon Allen was awesome. He was great at Wisconsin. But I think coming in, he had a few of those questions, long speed. You have Corey Clement, who felt like a really good back in a lot of ways, but not elite necessarily anywhere outside of maybe just his physical nature between the tackles, but he wasn't the biggest guy. Like Latimer's bigger than Corey Clement. He's going to run with, I think, a little more power. He's similar ability with his feet, but just a bigger, more physical guy, I think, coming into the program. And Clement was a 4-star guy. I love CC, but I don't think he was at Amari's level coming in. You have Darian Dupree, who we love Darian on this show. Justin loves him. I really think he's a really good back. I think he's more of a slashing 10 to 15 touch a game type of guy. I think he's a great guy in space. I don't think he's the complete back that Amari Latimer is. Jalen Berger, I always felt like certainly was underwhelming in his college career when you look back at his high school pedigree, but that was a big get, 4-star player, really nice film, good offer list, but again, not a great offer list. And then some of the tier C guys, like a Nakia Watson, who was a 4-star out of Texas, but didn't have a great offer list. And I thought the film didn't show a lot other than just kind of straight ahead power. You have Nate White. Again, we talked about Nate White. That's heartbreaking. And on film, he was pretty unique. Great in space, but just not very big, right? You could tell on film he'd be maybe a little limited. Julius Davis, who had injury problems and never broke through. KD Akimelli, Bradrick Shaw, Taiwan Deal. Those are kind of my C tier guys. So I think when you look at the last 10-ish years of running back recruiting in Wisconsin, Amari Latimer is like a top 3 guy for me that they've been able to land. Again, I can't stress this enough. These two guys are home runs. For what Wisconsin can do to go out of state and get a 4-star receiver from Florida and a 4-star running back from Georgia, Absolutely incredible. Does Amari play year one? Does Amari Latimer play year one? I think so. I I think he does. And I was looking at the depth chart. Now, depth charts are fluid. Depth charts have always been somewhat fluid, and they're super fluid now with the portal and everything that's going on. So it's hard to project. But nominally, you could have, if you look a year ahead, when there sorry, geez, when Amari Latimer, I was blanking on the name for a second. When Amari Latimer gets to campus, if you look a year ahead, you're looking at probably a redshirt sophomore Dylan Jones, a junior Darion Dupree, a redshirt senior Cade Yakimelli, and a redshirt sophomore Gideon Atuka. Amari's going to play. He's going to find reps in that group for a couple reasons. I think you have to play the young studs when you get them. I almost think that's just part of the nature of college football now. You almost have to find reps for them. But he brings, we always talk about this, can you bring something unique or different? And he gives you power behind Dylan Jones that I think is going to play. He's going to come in with a college ready frame. He's enrolling early, which is a big deal. And you just don't get many physical kids like this. Is he going to get a starter's work? No, he's not going to come in and start, but they're going to play him because they're going to want to get him ready for the next year. This is the type of player that you want to get greased up. You want him to get ready. You want to get some reps so that the next year, when you really want to rely on him a little bit more, he's ready to go. Because I think he's a potential difference maker. And it's no shade to anybody else. I think him and Dylan Jones are potential difference makers. And because of that, you're going to want to get him on the field quickly. I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play early. And I think by the time he's a sophomore, he's the bell cow. And part of that maturation process is you got to get him some reps early in his career so he can continue developing and continue growing. And I think with the elite guys, you want to play them early just to be on the safe side anyway. Again, they didn't take a running back in last year's class, so that's going to help them out as well. There's not as much depth there as there traditionally would be at Wisconsin. And quite frankly, I think he's good enough to eat into the reps of some of these other guys. He's that physical. He's that big. He's that strong. He can catch the ball. I think they're going to find a package for him because he's going to be good enough to do it. All right, we're going to take a quick second there. Friends of the show, come back, talk about one thing I heard about Amari Latimer from a scout, and then big picture. Let's talk about the big picture of this and wrap it all up. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. And a quick second to say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Thank you for being a part of this show, this community. Y'all are incredible. Thank you for doing this journey with us. I wanted to talk. I started to get into this a little bit last segment, and then I held off because I realized I kind of want to talk about this segment. What's the big picture of this when we start talking about best skill duo and what the Badgers just did? Let's put a little of this in perspective because we've talked this class quite a bit about, gosh, you lost Max Steinecker. What a blow. And you haven't landed a couple of the offensive linemen in the previous classes you had. You've missed on maybe a couple of the edge guys. Carmelo Reed flipped. You still need a corner. But this shows you that this recruiting department and this staff can hit home runs, that they can land knockout blows against the best of the best. That has to make you so confident as a Badger fan. Again, they went into Florida. They went into Naples, Florida, and pulled a receiver that, I mean, everybody wanted. That like the Oklahoma wanted, Florida schools wanted. That's a massive win, and that should tell you something about Coach Reed, the new receivers coach. Should give you confidence there. And then they went into Georgia. They went into Georgia and pulled a running back that Georgia wanted, that Florida wanted, Florida State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas. You make a collage of the blue bloods of college football. Throw it up on the wall. That's who wanted Amari Latimer. All of them. Like all of them. For them to go into Georgia, get Latimer, and then to go into Florida and get Pettit as a Badger fan has to give you an incredible amount of confidence, especially as this NCAA house ruling and some of these things I feel like are being ironed out, things that are going to benefit Wisconsin. Now you can look at this recruiting staff, sans Max Steinecker. And I always said there's some really good dudes in this class, or this recruiting department without Max. I think Pat Lambert is awesome. Zilm is awesome. Coach Zilm is awesome. They have certainly other guys in there. Jess Thompson is incredible at what he does. There's Casey Rybach. They have great people in that room still, and they just landed two haymakers. It has to give you so much confidence because what happens as this house committee starts to balance this out, and if this program starts to turn around a little bit, it's only going to get better. Next year's in-state class is really strong. I think it's got to give you so much confidence going forward in what this recruiting department can do. If coming off a 5-win season, they're able to land these two guys, right? And these two guys, also, this is momentum. Around the country, people know the names, the people who really follow recruiting. And I'll get into one scout told me, I was talking to him about Amari Latimer, and I got to ping him on Jayden Petit too. But he said Amari is the best running back I saw in person in this year's class, and he's seen a lot of guys. He said he's incredible. He's fast, he's physical, and getting him to Wisconsin is going to raise eyebrows and it's going to put eyeballs on this program and this recruiting place, this recruiting class. Momentum matters. Like, you land a couple blue chip guys like this. Blue chip guys want to play with blue chip guys. That's why LeBron went to Miami with Bosch and Wade. It's no different. It's why when you're playing fives and you're shooting for teams out on the playground, if you make your first shot, you're not picking the scrub first. You're picking the 6'9" shooter, right? Who's a beast in the paint, because you want to play with other guys because you want to win. You want to win at the highest level. Ultimately, you want NIL opportunities and a good fit and close to family, but you also want to win, because with winning comes marketing. With winning becomes your picture on Sports Illustrated. With winning comes accolades. With winning comes endorsement deals. And if you're a dog, you don't want to lose, even if any of that stuff was on the table. So you add a couple guys like this in the class, you have the potential now to really change the momentum, the narrative of what this is, and potentially pull a few more guys in. And now imagine if you're Ryan Hopkins, who we've talked about several times. That's going to be a battle. You have him in the class, but Hopkins has said it. He said, I'm in Wisconsin, but he left a little bit of gray area. And if he goes out now and balls out at Mater Dei, he can look at this class and say, man, I can play with a Jayden Petit. I can play with an Amari Latimer. Okay, let's roll. You need other pieces in your class to keep landing new pieces. You need ambassadors. You need people who other high-level players can look at and say, well, man, if an Amari Latimer is going to go there and a Jayden Petit's going to go there, I might need to look twice at Madison. And it also increases from the 247 and the On3 and the ESPN and all the media outlets that talk about the program. They're going to talk about Wisconsin more too. Josh Pate, all these people. Wisconsin just landed Amari Latimer and Jayden Petit coming off a 5-win season. Man, those are big gets for them. And that's something, that Scout said too. Like, those are just wins that are going to raise eyebrows. People are going to say, he went where? Just because it's not expected. It's not expected for a 4-star running back in Georgia with those offers to go to Madison, or a 4-star receiver in Florida with those offers to go to Madison. It can change the momentum. It can change the story of this class and potentially lead to you getting a couple more guys and a couple more flips. It's also proof of concept, right? It's proof of concept that this staff and this program and this coaching department, they can still sell and they can still land elite talent and win elite recruiting battles. That's a credit to Coach Fickle all the way through Pat Lambert and the team he's built. And it's just, you got to be excited if you're a Badger fan. Like, we've talked on this show a couple times about some of the recruiting losses that they've had, and Carmelo Reed flipping was a pain point for me because I love him. But like, these are massive wins, and these massive wins can have impacts in other areas. So I think if you're a Badger fan, you got to be excited about it, optimistic about it, and I think it's completely fair to be both of those things. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it there on Wisconsin. Really do appreciate y'all for joining in. Thank you so much as always. We will definitely talk later. We're out.